I've been wearing a Whoop for 6 months now, and in this video I'm going to share the good, the not so good, and if I think it's worth it. And to let you know, this video isn't sponsored. I bought this Whoop with my own money. In fact, I paid for it twice, which I'll explain later. And this is the kind of stuff that I'd tell my friends if they asked me if the Whoop is any good. So let's get started. If you're not familiar with Whoop, this is a health tracker and it tracks sleep, recovery, exercise, heart rate variability, steps, blood oxygen, body temperature, stress. It estimates VO2 max and it also does cycle tracking for women. And on the higher models, it also gives biological age, pace of aging, AFib detection, ECG and blood pressure insights. Now, the Apple Watch and other smartwatches like a Garmin watch, they give similar data. So you might be wondering what makes Whoop different. Hopefully this video will explain. Whoop is only a health tracker and it doesn't have a screen. It's waterproof and designed to be worn all the time, even when it's charging. So it comes with this handy little battery pack, which goes on like this, although you do end up kind of looking like an ex-criminal wearing an electronic tag. But anyway, and it's mostly worn on the wrist, and it can also be worn on the bicep. And if you want it completely hidden, because let's face it, it doesn't look that cool, or if you do things like martial arts, then there's even special underwear where this little sensor slips into, which is pretty nifty. I've got the latest Whoop version 5. This is the MG model and I signed up for the Life subscription. So the top model and the top subscription, because I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. And I'll talk more about the different models and subscriptions later in the video because, well, you'll find out it annoyed quite a lot of people. Let's talk about the good stuff. The Whoop recently upgraded from the version 4 to the version 5. And the battery on the new 5 is good. I can usually get about 14 days out of one charge, which compared to the Apple Watch, I get just 1 day. However, if you wear a Garmin watch, something like a Fenix or one of the new Forerunners, then you'll know what good battery life feels like. The thing that makes the Whoop different, and in my opinion, it makes it better than other health trackers, is the data is so comprehensive and it's easy to understand. And instead of just showing the numbers and relying on the user to know what to do with those numbers, the Whoop actually tells the user what the information means and what to do with it for that day in order to improve performance and recovery. For example, there's these sections called the Whoop Coach in the sleep, recovery and strain sections, and this bit called your daily overview, which is my personal favourite. And the tools give advice based on all the individual stats that are given each day, and it can go quite in depth. And I ask it things like this. And I recently travelled to Thailand, which was 2 6.5-hour flights. And I asked the Whoop to give me the best schedule to minimise jet lag. I followed the advice and I felt surprisingly good at my destination. And I find this feature really helpful, and I think it's one of my favourites. I recently did a VO2 max test at a science lab and I took 4 of my wearables, including the Whoop. And the Whoop actually came out with the most accurate score, which really impressed me. One thing I'm surprised the Whoop has helped me with is motivation, especially to do the things I don't want to do. I've woken up some mornings and felt so tired, but when I looked at my recovery score and it told me I was ready to hit it hard, I'd head to the gym and I'd go for it, and I felt great. Use the code LauraTry20 for 20% off Vivo barefoot shoes. This is another example where I've woken up and I am so tired. If my Whoop tells me I'm not recovered, I'm just going to go back to bed. I'm 90% recovered, which means I'm going to go to the gym. This is where the Whoop is good for me. It's making me fitter. I'm doing more because it's telling me I can do more rather than me just going by the way that I feel. And somehow I never got that motivation when I was using my Apple Watch and my Garmin watch. As a female user of Whoop, the cycle tracking is fantastic. And I was almost going to say, men are missing out here, but Apple Watch and Apple Health do cycle tracking, but it is pretty terrible. Garmin does an okay job, but this for me is where Whoop really stands out. I can clearly see how my skin temperature, resting heart rate, heart rate variability and recovery correlates with certain parts of my cycle, and then how those things affect my performance and my sleep, which I find fascinating. And now it makes so much sense how some days I can go to the gym and feel like an absolute warrior, and then other days I go and I feel like I'm wading through mud. The journal feature is a tool to track habits, actions and behaviours, and it tracks trends over time to see if that behaviour has a positive or negative effect on performance and recovery. The journal can be customised with over 140 different things, and it's a really cool feature. I use it most mornings, especially when I'm doing my experiments for my YouTube videos to see if what I'm doing actually makes a difference. However, the feedback that it gives should be taken with a pinch of salt. For example, it tells me obvious stuff like a consistent bedtime, a warm bath, and watching the sunset has a positive effect on my recovery. But at the same time, it tells me that stretching, massages, saunas, and spending time with friends and family has a negative effect on my recovery, which I think is so funny. So, like everything that a health tracker tells us, use it as a guideline, not as a rule book. With all the stuff I've mentioned, you might be thinking,
This sounds great. I want a Whoop.
but now for the not so good stuff. So this is a health and activity tracker, and it monitors heart rate all the time. So you'd think that one of the most important data points was heart rate. Just wait. On several occasions, my Whoop has had a total meltdown.
So I'm doing a warm up for my sprints, and my Whoop says my heart rate's at 170. You can see my heart rate is not at 170. Sometimes it has real trouble calibrating. So my heart rate is actually 117. It's kind of annoying because I want my heart rate to be accurate.
And another time I did a strict 45-minute run in zone 2. Here's the data from my Garmin, which I used a chest heart rate strap, so the data is as accurate as it can be. And in comparison, here's the data from my Whoop, telling me I was in zone 5 for 31 minutes. This is what zone 5 looks like for me, and I definitely wouldn't be able to maintain it for 31 minutes. The Whoop was totally off, and it doesn't happen a lot, but it happens more than it should. There's some mornings where my band doesn't sync with my app, which is really annoying. When I've had these issues, I've reached out to Whoop customer care, which was actually quite difficult to find. So when I finally worked out how to contact them, call me old school, but I was disappointed to receive an automated AI-generated reply. It's this big company with customers ploughing a considerable amount of money into their membership each month. Is it too much to ask for an actual human customer care team? Okay, at this point, I'd love to know, do you wear a Whoop? Or maybe you've been thinking about getting one. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, because I know other people will head down there to read about your experience. Whoop is a subscription product, which is why a lot of people don't sign up. The downsides are we never own the product, and it can end up costing a lot of money. And the upsides are there's new features and updates added frequently, and there's a lifetime warranty. Here's the latest prices for the annual subscriptions. There used to be just one model and one subscription, but now there's 3. More on that in a minute. Some say that you could buy a brand new smartwatch every year for the same price as a Whoop subscription, and yes, that's true. And this is the bit that gets really juicy. And what I'm about to tell you has really annoyed a lot of people, and it's caused them to cancel their Whoop membership. The Whoop policy, which has always been displayed on their website, was if a user had paid for Whoop for more than 6 months, they would get any device upgrade for free. Well, enter the version 5 a few months ago, and that didn't happen. The policy conveniently disappeared from the website, along with a lot of paying customers, because when the Whoop 5 came out, existing customers needed to pay for the upgrade. Even though I wasn't affected by this, it did make me question the ethics and values of Whoop as a company, because they went against their word, and I think that's really naughty. The good things about the Whoop are really good, and the bad things are really bad. And with everything I've said, you may be wondering, do I think the Whoop is worth it? And who is it actually good for? If my friends were to ask me these questions, these are the answers I would give. Despite the bad stuff, I am getting value from this because it's helping me improve my health and fitness. And it's a useful tool for me to show in my videos if certain habits and behaviours actually make a difference, rather than me guessing. So right now I'm going to keep this. I just wish they would sort the heart rate out. And the most important thing I'd say is, if you're actually going to do the things it tells you to improve your health, then great. But if all you're going to do is check the data each morning and then carry on like you always do, then essentially you're wearing a not very stylish electronic tag and burning a wedge of 20s every year. If you liked this video, then YouTube thinks you're going to like this one too.